And hopefully Solar's feeling okay. I'm sure that was a taxing series. It was a wild series to watch, not gonna lie. It was an hour and 40 minutes, my god. But now we're getting into our next qualifying match, and spawning in the top left-hand corner, he has been patiently waiting for the loser of that previous match that we casted. We have representing Team Abydos and all the waifus out there, the South Korean Protoss. It is NightMare. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing On-Side Gaming. Just now dropping to Gumiho, but looking to fight back against his next opponent. It is Solar. Oh boy. Okay, that was a pretty intense ZvT. It was actually a rematch of ESL Masters as well, I just realized, of the semifinals, if I'm not mistaken. Where Solar was able to bring down Dark. Gumiho brought down Cure. But now Solar, he's looking to be the favorite in this series. He's going to be going up against NightMare, and as much as I love NightMare, he is a little bit inconsistent compared to some of the other Korean Protosses out there, compared to Classic, compared to Hero, compared to Creator as well. We talk about this all the time. NightMare, he's got some really high highs, but they don't come as frequently as we would like. You know, maybe like once a month or once every couple of weeks. NightMare, he's able to show up and pop off and do really well in some of these online tournaments like ESL Open Cup Asia, ESL Open Cup Americas. He has beaten Solar and he has beaten Dark in the past. It's just kind of few and far between. So if there were ever a time to really turn it on, it would be here. It would be now for NightMare. And hopefully Solar can shake that previous series off. Shake it off, man. Shake it off. As we are getting into this. Now, NightMare, he's a player who, from what we've seen, thrives a lot in the mid game. That doesn't necessarily mean that he necessarily relies on all-ins by any means, but even if he goes for a Stargate opener, it is typically for a Twilight Council follow-up, for example. I can't remember the last time I've seen NightMare go to the late game and go into Sky Toss against Zerg. Game usually just doesn't last that long, as it is going to be that Stargate opener from NightMare. Should be seeing some Oracles, should be seeing a third base as well. As long as nothing crazy does come out of this, like, I don't know, a Void Ray, for example. Babylon, I don't think it would be too bad of a map for something like Lave Adepts if we wanted to go for that kind of follow-up. But for the time being, Solar is attempting to get a free scout off. The Slowling does dive in, and it looks like it will not manage to scout the main. Does get denied. As the Overlord is forced to dip in, and yeah, it is going to be that Oracle first. Nothing too crazy from NightMare. Just keeping Solar in the dark. As Solar is forced to take the unnatural natural. And it's going to be on Solar to make sure his queens are in position, make sure he has his spores up and running as well. Doesn't cut too many corners. As NightMare is even going to be moving out with his first two Adepts as well. Would be a bit of a risky move. Yes, be careful not to lose them. Not to lose them needlessly, I should say. Yeah, as Link Speed does kick in, and Solar is looking for a surround. He's looking for at least one of these Adepts, and he does get him. And as the Adepts go down, that is going to leave this third base very vulnerable. Typically, the Adepts are kept at home so that they can kind of situate themselves in between the pylon and the minerals and actually defend this third base. But now there's only one. The probe, it does go down. The third is going to be delayed. At the same time, the Oracle does make it across the map, and so far we haven't really been able to find too much damage. We're going for the eggs, I guess. We do get one. We do force a cancel. Thankfully, Solo, we do have a Spore here at the third base. One drone goes down. The Oracles are going to be deflected, and it looks like NightMare is going to be going for a double Oracle opener. With this, he's going to be able to transition a lot faster into that Twilight Council, into this Forge. We'll work towards Blink and +1. He is headed in that direction. And yeah, this is all looking pretty normal. Now, NightMare, quite often he has gone for these 7 to 9 gate all-ins with +1 Blink Stalkers, but I don't know if this is really the best map for that. I've seen him do it on maps like Ancient Cistern, Gressfan as well is a pretty popular one for that. So we'll see if NightMare does go for that. For the time being, he's just getting his gateways up and running, just establishing his third base, nothing too crazy. The oracles are dipping between the bases, and so far they just haven't really been able to do too much. One drone between them. And that egg earlier. We get a couple of lings as well, but so far, Solar has been able to keep up. As I say that, third base is a little bit exposed. Another drone goes down, but this is pretty minimal damage. 2 drones. For the most part, Solar has been able to drone quite happily. Taking his gases, working towards that Roach Warren. No Evo Chamber. Pretty interesting. You have my attention, Solar. Okay, there we go. Evo Chamber was just a little bit delayed. And with that delayed Evo Chamber, he may just go for +1 range instead. He may just be going for a much more heavy Roach composition instead of working on those Ling upgrades. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on him. Evo Chamber does finish up, and it is going to be +1 melee. Again, much later than we really expect. Usually we get our Evo Chamber around the 4-minute mark, but now we're more than 6 minutes in. To show how much Solar was just focusing on droning and just establishing himself. Meanwhile, the Stalkers have arrived and there aren't any Lings here. They were across the map. So pretty good pickoffs here from NightMare. Gonna be able to pick off a couple of those Roaches. Of course, with the help of these rocks, he should be able to blink over and he shouldn't really lose anything here. Very nicely done by NightMare. Yeah, he's just been poking, prodding, just getting a little bit of value here and there. Nothing too major yet. Solar is setting up a run by. Thankfully, NightMare is ready for this. I mean, we have shield batteries, we have units in position. The wall is a wall. Oh my god, and a massive stasis trap goes off as well. Solar! The majority of his army gets stasis. Now these queens are exposed. Uh-oh. Things can definitely snowball a little bit out of control here. Tumors go down. NightMare, though, he doesn't risk it. He doesn't go for the queens. He definitely could have. So he's going to be respecting this army. It's getting ready for that stasis to run out. And forcing a fight off of creep. Again, a good trade here for NightMare. Picking off 6 roaches already. As he pushes out, the Lings are setting up another counterattack here once again at the 3rd. NightMare taking us, oh my god, taking a 5th base already. He really just wants to keep this going. Essentially a pure gateway army. Another massive stage trap goes off as well on those roaches. And I'm worried here for Solar. Once again, NightMare, he can take this fight. Oh, the aggressive blink forward was maybe a bit much, but once again, he shaves off a good chunk of those roaches, and again, this is just more gas down the drain. The reason why I pointed out is that typically we want to preserve the roach counts and mainly lose Lings in these skirmishes. Like, these roaches, as they go down, are pretty high-value pickoffs. It does snowball out of control. Once again, we blink on forward. We dive on top of this army. The Lings are running out. Bailings are rolling in from the side. Up. Good connections. This is going to give Solar a little bit of breathing room to reinforce, make more of these Ravagers. But NightMare, he just doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want to slow down. He just keeps on pushing. Overlord's falling left and right. The rocks are softened up so they can be knocked down just in case the surround is set up. Solar getting on top of these Stalkers this time. Not a bad trade here, but oh. Again, he doesn't want to push too far off of creep. We do have Stalkers coming in from behind as well. A bold move from NightMare. It's going to be bleeding out a lot. And Solar, he's finally been able to stabilize. We have a Baling run by at the same time. Mineral Line does go down. NightMare, he wasn't quite looking. The wall, I guess, wasn't a wall. How did he get past? Oh, I guess the unit died. You can see the shields are gone here. Solar was able to break on through. Another Ling run by being set up here on the left-hand side, and yeah, NightMare, he's just having a hard time holding on. He's still at a really healthy worker count, even though he just lost the Mineral Line. He's on 83 probes. Jesus. And now we're finally making more than just Stalkers. Zealots are on the way. Oh my god, the rocks once again just walling Solar off. And Solar has been having a hard time, but especially after that Baling run by, Solar is now has the breathing room to remax, to get up to a pretty good supply, and now he's going to be laying siege upon these mining bases of NightMare. But the Zealots, they come in from behind. The Lingbane was wasted on the Mineral Line. Oh god. And this entire time, it does feel like maybe Solar has been bleeding out too much. He's able to get on top of the army. Balings, they come in from behind. Finally, it looks like he breaks this fresh mining base of NightMare. He gets on top of the army. The Stalkers are falling one after the other. As he finally forces NightMare all the way back home. And yes, Solar is snowballing out of control. He takes down the 5th. He takes down the 4th in one fell swoop. The Zealots are going for a counterattack, but Solar has done more than enough damage. NightMare was doing pretty well for himself up until a couple of minutes ago. He was doing a great job at, again, trading with Solar, but he was never able to really slow down his economy. He wasn't able to shut down these fringe bases until now. It took a while for the Zealot Rumbites to really come into play. Now NightMare, he's stuck on a 3-base economy, struggling to get a 4th up and running. Solar, he's free to do whatever he wants at this point. Now we get the infestation bit. We've got our upgrades on the way. 2-1. 5th base, 6th base even. Double expanding. Solar, he survived. He made it through the worst of it. You can like see how on a knife's edge NightMare was playing. It's what happens when you play this kind of low quality army style, like this Swarm Toss style. Pure Zealots and Stalkers, like no Colossi, no Disruptors. If you take one bad fight, if you lose too many of these Stalkers, then I mean that is your backbone to your army. You don't have any of these other high-tech units to fall back on. As Solar chases down these Stalkers, we're going for a full surround. Balings, they crash into the Mineral Line once again. NightMare, he's just letting it sink in. Letting it all sink in, Papi. As he's forced to recall, GG gets called, and Solar will take game number 1 after a pretty intense back and forth. GG. That wasn't too bad from NightMare. I do think there were a couple of moments where it was looking like he was almost able to break Solar. Specifically, I'm thinking of when Solar, he got his unit stasis. I say his units, his army stasis. Happened twice. And it feels like NightMare maybe could have used that as an opportunity to get a little bit more done, but he never really went for it, if you remember. He was very conservative with his army when it came to pushing in towards those bases. Like he was playing a little bit scared, but here we go, spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Gress Farm. We have the South Korean Protoss player currently down in this series, representing Team Abydos. All the waifus out there. He's doing it for you. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming. It is Solar. One game away from qualifying for GSL. After a pretty intense game 1, I do think game one also, again, that was like, it was very NightMare. I was talking about earlier how NightMare, he thrives in the mid game, and I don't think I've ever seen him like in a late game scenario against a Zerg player. When I say that, I mean like Sky Toss, or really Sky Toss. It's not really it's not really something that NightMare goes for. He wants to be in your face. He wants to get the momentum early on and snowball. He's a very fast player. He's a very aggressive player, which is why it's a lot of fun to watch him. A lot of fun. We'll see how he differs his plans here on Gressvan. Earlier, I was talking about how 3-base all-ins from Protoss are a little bit more popular on Gressvan. Don't know if NightMare is one to do that, but we have seen it time and time again. I think keep an eye on that. So we're going for a hatch gas pool, able to take his natural base on location. Feels good, man. Barely able to throw it down just before that probe showed up. NightMare should be going for a Stargate opener from here, but we'll see. We'll see. Have a look at that pylon placement. We'll see what he ends up taking towards. I'm curious as well, if you remember last game when he went for the double Oracle opener, he had a really hard time finding damage. He got, what, 2 drone kills? Maybe 3? Very minimal damage with his first couple of Oracles. Of course, they still have value and they still allow you to expand and take your third. But NightMare may opt to go for a bit of a different opener as a result. And yeah, there it is. It's a Twilight Council. Pylon was thrown down behind the mineral line. With this, the tech is going to be a little bit harder to scout. It's going to be harder for Solar to get his eyes on this. And we'll keep an eye on that gas count. NightMare, he has been flaunting DT play quite a bit recently. We actually casted that earlier today in ESL Open Cup Americas. Well, there's that robo. We haven't pulled out of gas, by the way, so this could be a straight up Dark Shrine opener, or this could still be Glaives with DTs mixed in as well. So we are going to be waiting, and there we go. Glaives has commenced. We do pull out of gas. We haven't stayed in. So it is going to be a Glaive Adept opener here. Shouldn't be more than 4 gateways, but we'll keep an eye on things. As the second gate does get thrown down. Solar trying to get a scout off. He does dive in. He's trying to figure out what is going on. As unfortunately for NightMare, he has very limited anti-air. He has a Stalker on the way, but it's not going to come out in time. The Overlord should be able to get eyes on the production on this tech. And with that, Solar should be responding with a Roach Warren. Boy, 3 gates are on the way. So again, it is going to be 4-gate blink. Sorry, 4-gate glaives. With this, you can transition, you can expand and throw down another base from here. Throw down a third. It is just designed to get you ahead as the game does go on. It can kill the Zerg player, sure, but you know, Solar sees everything. Immediately, he throws down a Roach Warren. Even it cancels the Spore. Yeah, Solar is going to be getting ready for those Adepts. Now, we do already see NightMare taking another Gas Geyser. This is interesting. I wonder if he's going to be staying on 2 bases here. He throws down 2 more pylons as well. Typically, you would take a 3rd base, as we're pushing, of course. But with these additional gases being taken, this could be for maybe a Robotic Spade to work towards Disruptors. I'm curious as to what he's going to be taking towards. As the Adepts have arrived. There we go. Immortal production is already commencing back at home. Not going to be committing to the Shade. Just going to be threatening the bases here of Solar. Again, we force a reaction. We force Lings and Roaches to be produced. We're not racing towards a Robotic Space. It's just Immortals for the time being. 3rd base should be taken momentarily as well. So I guess because NightMare got scattered, he's not really going to be committing too hard with these Adepts. He does, yeah, Shade back instead. He's not going to be threatening these mineral lines. As the Lings of Solar do delay that Nexus. Once they get forced back, we're able to throw it down. And yeah, again, this is the power of 4-gate Glaive Adept. Like, it's not committed at all. Like, you don't have to force the issue. You don't have to deal economic damage. You can just transition. And again, it's pretty crucial here for these Adepts to stay alive. If they ever do die, then it will trigger a counterattack, and NightMare will lose this third. So it's going to be very careful here with these Adepts. Speaking of, he does go for a drop in towards the natural, but the Lings are in position. Solar does defend. And now that the Immortals have arrived, it does mean that that Roach counterattack that we were talking about is going to be that much weaker, or it means that even this army is that much more threatening. We already have those 2 Immortals. The Roix Bay is on the way for those Disruptors. God, and look at that Adept count. It's just been getting higher and higher as the game has gone on. Lings once again are going to be harassing and catching some of these workers. But this army's pretty terrifying. This is insane. Ling's going to do nothing here, and the Immortals in the back line are just powering through those Queens. Queens go down one after the other. The Roaches as well. The Immortals doing so much here for the army of NightMare. Lings are going to be getting a kill on that third base, but I don't think we really care about that. Not right now. As NightMare once again is getting on top of those Roaches. He's running out of Adepts though. He's running out of steam. The Lings are coming from behind. Prism just barely does save those Immortals. It looks like with the death of all those Lings, that NightMare is barely breaking through. Oh. Yeah, he's going to have to evacuate. He's going to have to get out of here. I love that he's still juggling his heart out. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to keep on pushing. I mean, the pressure is on him, especially after his third base got killed. He needs to break through. He needs to get damage done at this point. If he had his third, he could just back off, but that's not the case. Oh, and here we go. This time the Adepts do shade into the main. Immortals do get picked up. And these Adepts are really just going to be distracting the army of Solar. They're not really going to get any drones at all. Been trading quite heavily here. The Immortals have been able to survive throughout all of it. Again, another hot pick off from NightMare does keep them alive. Back at home, how many Disruptors do we have? We have one, soon to be 2 Disruptors. NightMare is going to be able to expand and take this third base, and thankfully, because of all that aggression from NightMare, even though he didn't kill any workers, he did force a lot of Lings and Roaches to be made. He was able to trade with it, and as a result, Solar, his economy isn't looking that good. It's not amazing. 4th base is delayed. NightMare actually in a better economic position than Solar right now, which is kind of crazy. Again, NightMare just trying to squeeze as much value as he can out of those Immortals. Back at home, taking on up, working towards his forge. Blink finishing up as well. And this army is pretty terrifying. Thankfully, Solar does have Roach speed, so he's going to be able to avoid and split against these Novas. But with 3 Disruptors, depending on how good these Purification Novas are, NightMare, he can break through. He can deny the 5th and even the 4th. Here we go, as NightMare is rotating around. He wants to deny this 4th base. Mortals, they've been around, they've been here through the worst of it. The Disruptors are exposed. 1 Nova is going to be going off. Decent connection. The second one also zones away the army. That first Disruptor did go down. The Banelings are waddling on in. Once again, we're trying to get on top of those Immortals. Banelings will crash into the Stalkers. Oh god, and the Biles take down the first Immortal, but it looks like NightMare has traded well enough. He breaks on through. We have 16 Roaches on the way, but they're trickling in. This hatchery may go down. Yeah, it looks like he knows he can't hold on to this 4th base. The hatchery will fall. Another Nova goes off, connecting on the queens. Banelings will not finish. Oh, and it's going to be close. NightMare, he's barely breaking on through. The boys are being pulled. And with the help of these workers, it looks like it isn't going to be enough. It looks like with these reinforcements, even with the Immortals going down, the Stalkers stand strong. We've broken the 4th, breaking the 5th as well. And as long as we're able to avoid these piles, as I say that, he does take a bar to the face. But NightMare has the momentum in catching these reinforcements as they pop out. 4th base will go down. He actually doesn't care about the 4th at all. Again, he wants to fight with the army. He knows he can. And Solar, he did a great job initially defending against the Glaive Adepts, but GG gets called. NightMare ties up the series 1-1. GG. Yeah, Solar just with such a delayed 4th base, and just because of how much was being forced out of him, so many roaches, so many lings, he didn't really have a solid economy behind it. He was kind of struggling to keep up with NightMare, despite even killing that 3rd base. I think, I'm pretty sure Solar just assumed NightMare was going to go all in. I think he just assumed that after he killed the 3rd base, that NightMare was just going to stay on 2 bases and try to break him. I don't think he was really expecting NightMare to retake that 3rd and actually saturate it. And the Solar found himself in a really awkward position. And now we're getting into the ace match, into game number 3. 2 ace matches in a row. Jesus. Solar has to work for it. He's... The games, they don't stop for him, Bobby. They don't stop. As spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Royal Blood, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming. Being forced here into the ace match, into game 3. It is Solar. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Royal Blood, we have as opponent, we have the South Korean Protoss, bringing it back here in that last game, bringing it all the way here to game number 3. Representing Team Abydos, it is NightMare. As NightMare is able to get here in time, able to force the unnatural out of Solar. It almost looked like Solar was setting up for a 14 hatch, but he messed it up a little bit. He went for the Overlord first. NightMare was able to get here in time, and we'll see what we have in store for us here in Game 3. So Game 1, NightMare went for a more standard opener. He went for a Stargate into a Twilight Council 1+1, into Blink. Of course, it was a really like heavy Blink Stalker style, where he was just constantly in the face of Solar. Very aggressive variation of that hero opener. In Game 2, NightMare, of course, went for Glaive Adepts, into some very fast Immortals behind it. So what are we going to see in Game 3? What haven't we seen so far? We haven't seen a DT opener. We haven't seen Dark Shrine. We haven't seen how we could see, like, I don't know, an Immortal all-in. It's very Classic. Classic does do that every now and then. Go for, like, these old-school Immortal Sentry pushes. Very Soul Train-esque. Very out of fashion, but Classic does make it work from time to time. I don't really know if that's very NightMare, though. I don't know if he's one to do that. Stargate into Glaive Adepts. NightMare has done that before. Wouldn't be a bad way to shake things up. As once again the pylon is thrown down here behind the mineral line, which is typically not where you want that Stargate to be. Typically, if we're going for an Oracle opener, we want the pylon to be a little bit further out so we can, you know, save a little bit of time and get that Oracle across the map as soon as possible. So this looks like... I was gonna say it looks like a Twilight Council. I mean, it looks like anything but a Stargate opener, and it's going to be a Robo first. Oh my god. Okay, let's go, Poppy, let's go. So this could be for a couple of different things. The most obvious one, the most obvious choice is going to be a Disruptor opener. We're going to be going for a Disruptor drop if we throw down the Robotics Bait. We could also throw down 2 Gateways, and we can get a Prism instead, and we can go for a vanilla kind of like a vanilla gateway army push, where we have Blink essentially with that Prism, and we can be very aggressive and look to catch the Zerg player off guard. But again, I'm definitely I'm leaning on the side of a Disruptor drop, as we're waiting for the Robo to finish up, and now we should be seeing that Bay. There it is. Okay, so this is a little bit risky here, especially with the Overlord going for the Scout. If these Disruptors don't do too much damage, it's going to be difficult to hold on to the third base. Boy. As you can imagine, NightMare, he's going to be lacking a lot when it comes to his army, and relying so heavily here on these Disruptors, not just to deal damage across the map, whether it's economic damage or trading with the army, but also just keeping Solar busy on his side of the map, and making sure that NightMare has the breathing room to expand and take a third. Oh, God. Jesus. NightMare, calm down. So dance with the army. Meanwhile, Solar, he gets a full scout off as well, and I'm really curious to see what his response is going to be. So there are a couple of different ways. You can go for a really mass link style and rely on keeping up with the Disruptors, of course, but also rely heavily on denying this third base and containing NightMare to 2 bases. There are some Zerg players that like to be a little bit tech heavy and go for a faster Spire to rush into Mutas. Mutas, of course, they don't just shut down Disruptors, but they shut down the Prism itself as the game does go on. But now we are going for that Roach Horn, and we are going for a 4-minute 30 lair as well. Oh boy. Here we go. So yeah, Solar, with all that scout information, he's aware that he's free to drone. Like, as well, there isn't really going to be any Glaive Adept harass, no Oracle harass either. Solar is free to saturate his bases, as long as he has enough on the ground to keep up with that first Disruptor. Or these first Disruptors. Here we go. As the drop moves out, the Lings do move in. The Adepts, oh, they almost get caught out of range of that shield battery. Thankfully, NightMare does react in time. Yeah, and these Lings, they can work wonders across the map. The Queen's able to zone away these Disruptors for the time being. Oh, Novas go off, and only one of them connects. It does take 2 Novas to kill a Queen, so Solar doesn't lose anything yet. And again, once the Disruptors get picked up, Lings, they just move across the map, trying to catch whatever we can. A little bit premature from NightMare. He has to wait. There we go. Couple of seconds. Novas once again go up, and once again he doesn't get a Queen. Ay. He just hasn't been able to connect that second Nova. Behind this, Solar just saturating his bases, getting his 4th base up and running, working towards that Baneling Nest. Roach Speed on the way. Lingbane Roach Ravager is going to be the composition of choice, and NightMare is rushing into Colossi, which I think is a really wise move. I was talking about how threatening these Lings can be at the 3rd, and that's also why NightMare is going into those Colossi. Oh! This time a Queen goes down. Let's go. This time both Novas will connect. And NightMare gets something for his troubles, but so far this hasn't really been enough. We typically expect more than just 1 Queen kill. As NightMare is moving out with this army, and oh, this is going to be a pretty dangerous timing here with this 1 Colossus. Solar isn't really ready for this. Uh-oh. He was expecting NightMare to just be macroing up back at home, working on a later timing, but no, NightMare, he has arrived. The Colossus is here. The base is under threat. Solar just so unprepared. Nova goes off as well. The Queen does go down. And Solar just gets completely zoned away, cut off from his own base. Lings are going for a bit of a counterattack. They're going to be able to take down that gateway. No shield battery behind this. The Lings are going to be able to break on through. Up. Oh, they're trying to. But with the Warping of Zealots, it looks like NightMare should be able to hold on back at home. Oh my god. The Biles even take down the Disruptors. Not a bad couple of moments here from Solar. He's able to hold on. but he's being contained to 3 bases. Lings do dive into the main, but we have another warp in back at home, and yeah, Solar isn't able to do too much counter damage at all. Oof. And this is the same problem that Solar had last game. If you remember, Solar, he just couldn't get a 4th base up and running. It's actually the same problem that he had against Gumiho, now that I think about it. Where he was just unable to get a 5th, to be fair. It was a 5th against Gumiho. Oh, we heard you like Disruptor drops. What about Colossus drops as we take down a couple of those drones? Solar has to be careful. But again, with only a 3-base economy, he's really struggling to keep up with NightMare. Thankfully, NightMare was also a little bit careless with his unit control, and he lost both of his disruptors, so he doesn't have too much momentum going his way, but the ground army is still terrifying. Colossus comes back in once again. NightMare has to be careful not to overextend. It's a delicate dance here against the army of Solar. He's already working towards his hive, my god. I don't blame him. If Vipers do hit the field, Solar's going to be able to completely shut down the Colossi and the Disruptors, but he just doesn't have an economy to sustain that. Because now the Disruptors have hit the field. Colossus meeting up with the rest of the army. Oh boy. Solar looking to remax. But can he avoid these Novas? Can he avoid the Disruptors? Here we go, the first Nova does go off. The split is, it's not amazing. The first shot was pretty damn good from NightMare. The second one only gets 2 roaches. So we're having a hard time keeping up here. As the Banelings are rolling on in, they get some decent connections, but we are running out of Ling Bane. NightMare's army is just so tanky, so robust. Yeah, only roaches and ravagers remain. This is dangerous. We were talking about it earlier, but Solar, he can't afford to lose his high-tech units. He can't afford to lose his ravagers specifically. Fourth base slowly getting up and running. NightMare just keeping the pressure on the Disruptors. They have reset. Novas are available once again. Can he catch him not looking? That's what we're waiting for. Solar's been able to buy some time here to rebuild his Ling Bane at least. He's going to be rolling on in once again. The Vipers have arrived. They yoink the Disruptors. Up. One of the Novas still goes off. And the Stalker army pushes on through. I mean, I'm impressed that he was able to squeeze out those Vipers, but the boys have to be pulled. We can see that NightMare, he's breaking on through. There's nothing here on the left-hand side. Drones are falling left and right. Another Nova goes off. It does connect. And NightMare has done it. He's broken the army of Solar. There's nothing left. 2 Ravagers and a handful of Roaches remain. Solar just wasn't able to keep up. Well, he wasn't able to keep up, especially without that 4th. For so long. Vipers get sniped. Another Disruptor arrives. Doesn't connect, just zones away the army, but really all we need is pure Blink Stalker at this point. And NightMare, a bit of an upset, not gonna lie. Solar and Gumiho came in as the favorites of this group, but GG gets called, and NightMare does it. He brings down Solar and qualifies for GSL. GG. GG, well played, NightMare. A bit of a dark horse. Again, he's always been around here in the Korean scene, and he's always been a pretty powerful player, don't get me wrong, but he's always also been in the shadow of some of these other Protosses. He's been in the shadow of Hero, the shadow of Classic, the shadow of Creator, Trap before them. Even Zaun at time. I feel like a couple of years ago when Zaun was active, before Zaun retired, even then they kind of considered him to be a little bit higher tier than NightMare. But here, he rocks up, he shows up, he fights back, and yeah, is able to take down Solar and make it into GSL. And this is a rough day for Solar. Oh my god, 2 ace matches back to back, and he just barely does fall short. And now he's knocked down. He isn't eliminated. No one has been eliminated yet. He gets knocked down to that last chance bracket. The second round. And now we can actually have a look at that bracket. Here it is. So congratulations to Gumiho and NightMare. They advance on through Group D. And now we're getting ready for the last 4 matches. It's going to be a bunch of players that actually were eliminated from the group stages earlier. And they have had, they do now have a second chance here to qualify for GSL. It's going to be Classic versus Su. Loser goes up against Ryung. Solar versus Special. Loser goes up against Scarlet. Boy, we have all these players remaining. We have 4 qualifying matches left. Oh boy.